Do you desire for fresh perspectives? Are you ready to be a leader who shapes the future, not just reacts to it? Then buckle up, because the Thought Leadership Program is here. This dynamic program is the ultimate convergence point for industry experts, visionaries, and trailblazers. Each week, we bring you the thought leaders who are pushing boundaries and redefining what's possible. You will hear cut-edging insights, groundbreaking ideas, and practical strategies that will propel you forward. The Thought Leadership Program is where the future takes shape. Let the power of ideas propel you forward. Welcome to a space where thoughts lead, leaders inspire. The Thought Leadership Program, TLP, aims to amplify voices of thought leaders to drive positive change across business, government, and development sectors. Don't miss out on this incredible opportunity to learn from the best and become a leader who makes a difference. Tune in to the Thought Leadership Program on Money FM 93.7 every Wednesday at 9 hours. Visit our website at prs.org.zm for more information and subscribe to our podcast. Be the leader, be the future, be part of the program. This is PRS and Money FM reminding you to think outside the box.
Good morning, dear listeners, and welcome to this edition of the PRS Thought Leadership Program. My name is Natasha, I'm your host, and today our guest is Fungai Musana from WWF. So, the global economy has shifted towards sustainability, and financial institutions need to recognize the critical role that sustainability plays in mitigating climate risks. However, climate risks also provide an opportunity for growth and resilience. In Zambia, banks are particularly vulnerable to environmental and climate-related risks. So we've seen that droughts, floods, deforestation, and biodiversity loss directly impact loan repayments. They also directly impact asset values and long-term financial stability. However, it's not all doom and gloom, as sustainable finance provides an opportunity for banks to future-proof their operations by integrating environmental, social, and governance principles in their financial strategies. So this is what we'll be talking about today. Our topic for today is, can sustainable finance be a smart risk strategy for banks? If you've just tuned in, this is the PRS Thought Leadership Program. And in this program, we bring innovative thinkers, people that are at the forefront in their fields, to come and share their innovations with us so that we can learn what they are doing and also be able to see how we can collaborate with them to move Zambia forward. So this program is brought to you by PRS 365. PRS is a management consultancy firm, and we offer three main services. We do research, project management, and innovations testing. At PRS, we are practical problem solvers, and we help organizations to find solutions and create impact that has shared value. This thought leadership program, called the PRS Elevate Impact Program, brings together innovative experts with a passion to solve the day-to-day challenges that Zambia and Africa is facing. So like I said, today we are hosting Fungai Musana on this PRS Elevate Impact Program, and we'll be discussing sustainable finance and how it can be a smart risk strategy for banks. Fungai, good morning and welcome to the show.
Morning, and thanks for hosting me.
Yeah, we're very happy to have you on the show because I think ESG is a very now popular topic and has become a key requirement even for reporting, especially for public companies. But before we get into that, we would just like to know a little bit more about who Fungai is, the work that you do, as well as what WWF does in Zambia.
Yeah, thank you very much. Yes, I think as introduced, my name is Fungai Musana. Others call me Mr. Fungai Musana.
Okay.
Yeah, but well, I'm the Chief External Engagement Officer at WWF. So I lead on a number of aspects. Mm-hmm. One of them is promoting green finance. And maybe that's why you're having me here to discuss the topic.
Yeah.
But beyond that, I also look at quality assurance of projects at WWF.
Okay.
And further, I help with fundraising.
Okay.
Yeah. So,
Okay.
So I hope I'll use this platform to fundraise as well.
Great. Yeah. So can you tell us a little bit more about WWF and some of the projects and initiatives that they are doing in the country?
Yeah, as you may know, WWF is one of, or should I say, the largest conservation organization in the world. We have a turnover of more than $5 million US dollars, or I guess we handle more than 50 million worth of projects at a time.
Wow.
Per annum. And we also are keen looking at a number of pillars. So we look at fresh water. So in essence, we look at the freshwater ecosystem, try to understand the impacts that they are of, that are being caused by climate change to the freshwater ecosystem. And also we look at pollution, as you may have known, the current accident in the Copper Belt. Yeah, so these are things we look at and are quite pertinent for us. We also look at biodiversity. So in essence, we're looking at wildlife. And I think most people know us by the panda. Right? Yeah. So
which is on your logo.
Yeah, of course, yes. So we look at how we sustain the population of wildlife. Is it going down? Is it going up? And how does it impact on livelihood? So I think you may know there's been a number of human-wildlife conflicts. So obviously for us, we try to see how do we reduce that. But also bear in mind that we should not eradicate or reduce the population of animals. And further, we also look at how do we ensure that we plan better. So that's under that pillar. Then last pillar is green economy. So this looks at financing green. So we're looking at how do we help projects get money, get funded. And also we look at green finance. So in essence, we look at the policy side of things. How do we ensure that we have an enabling environment that promotes green finance?
Okay, great. And I think this is where we get now into the basics, because you're talking about green economy, you're talking about green finance. So maybe you can just explain a little bit what green economy and what green finance is, and in addition to that, what sustainable finance is.
Okay, great. So green finance, climate finance, sustainable finance. This
jargon in the environmental sector is
So they're kind of used interchangeably. Although sometimes in a wrong way. But generally, the overarching is sustainable finance.
Okay.
Yes,
okay.
And maybe let me dive into that. And obviously here we try to see how we can ensure that investment decisions consider environmental, social, and ESG factors, in essence, right? And by this means, we are looking at funding projects and businesses that are transitioning or trying to help mitigate climate change, promote social inclusion, and uphold ethical governance practices. So that's probably the definition, academic definition. And examples of these.
I think on the ground, what does it look like?
Exactly. So recently we had the CEC bond. I think they issued a 200 million bond. So that gives you a very good example of how green finance is supporting companies. But we're also looking at supporting companies that have fair labor practices. So in essence, the social part comes in. Then obviously, lastly, we're looking at how do we reduce GHG emissions, greenhouse gases emissions. And that aligns with the Paris Agreement, protocols, and all these things. So, and this could be agroecology. So you're looking at how do we change agriculture practices to ensure that we do better. We also look at how we involve in women. We look at the numbers of women involvement to ensure that the gender aspects are front and center.
So equity and inclusion.
Yes, exactly. Yes.
Okay. Great. And why is sustainable finance critical for banks?
Well, first of all, it's important for everyone, right? But for banks as well, maybe just to put context. As you may know, there's a lot of push to transition to a nature-positive economy. And this basically is believed to generate businesses opportunities of more than $10 trillion US dollars worldwide, and also create over 395 million jobs. And by so doing, ensuring that you're protecting nature, and that would avert more than 2.7 trillion of economic losses every year.
Wow.
So that in itself, just looking at those numbers I'm throwing around, this is money I've never seen in my life.
I know, right? I wonder what the statement would look like.
Yeah, there you go.
Yeah.
But yeah, so looking at that, and obviously bring it down to Zambia, we believe that if we look at sustainable finance, it could actually help with economic, making the economy stable.
Yeah.
So we're looking at how do we influence financial flows into Zambia, so make Zambia an attractive country for green finance. And once we obviously attract the green back, maybe the dollar will go down.
Yeah.
I've heard a lot of complaints about that, but yeah, I think this
I'm almost at 29.
yeah, there you go. So obviously we are trying to see how do we encourage investments into Zambia, and also there is a lot of funding out there which is trying to land. So we believe that if we look at this properly and we're able to have that attraction, then definitely maybe our financial flows will increase, and that obviously helps with us making the economy a bit more stable. But also there is a social impact, right? So one breath we are trying to influence finance, but also we want to promote projects that have social inclusion.
Yeah.
And obviously improve the standard of living of most people.
Yeah.
As you may know, we've got so many people living under $1.
Yeah.
We need to change that. I don't think it's acceptable. We are over 60 years as a country and still talking about people living below $1. I think that's not acceptable, and we need to see how do we improve that.
Yeah.
And it's only through maybe attracting such financing, coming up with projects, people get more involved into commerce, and we believe that should help. And for the banks, it's also a reputational and compliance issue.
Yeah.
As you may know, the Bank of Zambia recently issued a regulation on green loans.
Okay.
Yeah, so which means that...
I do not know, by the way, so it would be good for you to...
No, apologies. These are things we take for granted.
I know, because you're in the sector.
Yeah. So in essence, they're just trying to encourage banks to look at the issuance of green loans and obviously have proper regulations for that.
Okay.
We are currently with the Green Finance Mainstreaming Group, working group, which comprises the Bank of Zambia, Pensions and Insurance Authority, as well as the Securities and Exchange Commission, are looking at now defining the taxonomy. So, what is green? Because I think we've got so many shades of green, right? So we're trying to ensure that the green in Zambia is defined, and we're creating a taxonomy, and there's a consultancy going on right now, and we believe in time we're going to have a good taxonomy. Europe is far ahead of us. They have their own taxonomy. Kenya is ahead of us, and I believe South Africa is. And once we are able to do that, it becomes easier to manage and measure the green flows. As they say, you can't manage what you can't measure, right?
Exactly.
Yeah, so this is what we're trying to do, and looking at the taxonomy is the first step. But further also, and why it's crucial for banks, it's just good to have, right?
I guess.
And look, if you are able to combine business with sustainability, I think that's something great. And I think most banks would want to see their balance sheet decrease, but also ensure that they've got a future. Because imagine if they invest in activities that will only decline in terms of the impact. Then they are doing short term, so they need to look at long term.
Exactly. No, I completely agree, and I think that, like you're saying, it's prudent for them to move away from, funding things that are harming the climate, because there's going to be more and more pushback, even from the population, to say, we don't want to see these projects, we don't want to see these activities because they're harming our environment. And so it is prudent for them to start thinking about how do they get into the sustainable space. And
look, we've learned a big lesson from the recent drought. If you look at the impact on the economy, right? It's so huge. Up to now, we are still grappling. How do we get out of this? We're not saying that's directly related, but if you look at the science behind, and what people are saying, or at least scientists are saying, the droughts will increase. And floods will also increase. And in finance, you guys would call this this transition risk and the fiscal risk. So this is more of a fiscal risk that droughts bring. And if they increase, it means that we will have all these what you would call downturns a bit more, which will not help.
Yeah.
So the banks don't want this, and the food industry doesn't want that. So I think if we can do better to lessen the frequency of the drought, then I think that should work.
Great. All right. Let's talk about how sustainable financing has evolved in the past decade in Zambia. When you look at sustainable financing and the involvement of banks as well, how has it generally evolved?
Yeah. And that's a fair question. Maybe the question is, are they even adapting, right? And the quick answer is yes.
Okay.
I think we've seen a number of banks that have really moved towards sustainable financing, or let's just say ESG reporting. We know of one bank that has done a full integrated report, which is great.
Yeah.
We also seen a number of banks that are involved in agroecology or agroforestry, and they use that for carbon financing.
Yeah.
So I think there are innovative products that have come on board. But also, just to put context, right?
Yeah.
Sustainable finance market worldwide is growing, right? And I want to throw in some figures here and there. Yeah, and you note that there's been a lot of investments, and right now total flows is about 7 trillion.
Wow.
Yeah, that's a big number.
Yeah.
And this is 20% increase from 2022.
Wow.
Yeah. So there's an opportunity. Well, why do I bring up this?
Yeah.
Banks obviously attract money. There's deposits, but also borrow from markets,
Yeah.
so that they can lend out. So there's an opportunity for them to attract this kind of financing.
Yeah.
And I can't say the numbers are huge, right? But however, if you look at the nuances behind this, despite the positive trend, there is need for continued investor confidence in sustainable financing.
Yeah.
So which means that we need to have the market,
Yeah.
right? Which is actually doing right. So the banks need to do right for them to attract this financing, for investors to be confident. But also what you learn, which is now on the sad part, as much as we've had all this increase, there's also been some strong headwinds, because as much as there's been a lot of money at the market value, in terms of the flows themselves in the previous years, they've gone down. Because obviously there's been a bit more regulation, and greenwashing has been caught. So some of the banks were greenwashing. So obviously, and I bring up this because it's good. It's a good to have, but if you are doing it for greenwashing purposes, then it may not work.
Yeah. Yeah.
Not that they are related. Obviously, you've heard the geopolitics that are happening now, and the number of banks actually leaving the net zero alliance and all these things. It's no longer. I think it's no longer a good to have.
Yeah.
So the question you ask yourself, was it being done based on principle or for business?
Yeah.
So maybe that's a question we need to ask a bit more, because I know the top 4 banks have left the net zero alliance. So there are questions that needs to be asked.
Yeah, and I think that, like you were saying, greenwashing is a challenge. But when we look at Zambia, it provides a huge opportunity. You don't even have to greenwash, because there's so much opportunity to just do the right thing.
Yes.
Because of the structure of the economy, we have a lot of opportunity to be able to do that. So I hear what you're saying, and I think there is opportunity. So.
Yeah, of course.
Okay. Well, if you just joined us, you are listening to the Thought Leadership Program, and we're talking about what sustainable finance is all about and why it's crucial for banks to be able to put this in their strategies as they move forward. We're going to take a short break, and we'll be back shortly. Please stay tuned.
Do you desire for fresh perspectives? Are you ready to be a leader who shapes the future, not just reacts to it? Then buckle up, because the Thought Leadership Program is here. This dynamic program is the ultimate convergence point for industry experts, visionaries, and trailblazers. Each week, we bring you the thought leaders who are pushing boundaries and redefining what's possible. You will hear cut-edging insights, groundbreaking ideas, and practical strategies that will propel you forward. The Thought Leadership Program is where the future takes shape. Let the power of ideas propel you forward. Welcome to a space where thoughts lead, leaders inspire. The Thought Leadership Program, TLP, aims to amplify voices of thought leaders to drive positive change across business, government, and development sectors. Don't miss out on this incredible opportunity to learn from the best and become a leader who makes a difference. Tune in to the Thought Leadership Program on Money FM 93.7 every Wednesday at 9 hours. Visit our website at prs.org.zm for more information and subscribe to our podcast. Be the leader, be the future, be part of the program. This is PRS and Money FM reminding you to think outside the box.
Okay, thank you for tuning in. You are listening to the Wednesday edition of the PRS Thought Leadership Program. If you just joined us, we are talking to Fungai, and we are discussing sustainable finance as a smart risk strategy for banks. So earlier we discussed what sustainable finance is all about, and we talked about why it's critical for banks and how it has evolved in the sector over the last decade. So Fungai, I think you had started touching on this, on some of the challenges that come up as banks start adopting these sustainable financial practices. So maybe you can just tell us more. What are other challenges that banks face in adopting sustainable finance practices, and how can they overcome those challenges?
Yeah, as they say, I wish there were no challenges. Yeah, but to every dark cloud there's a silver lining, I guess. So in this case, we have challenges, of course. So one of them is the regulatory and compliance complexities that come with the process. So you note that every country has diverse and evolving ESG regulations, and obviously across different regions. And this can be cumbersome. So for instance, we work in an area called CASA, which is Zimbabwe, Zambia, Botswana, Angola, and Namibia. So, and they look at basically the area around the Victoria Falls and the likes. Yeah. And there we've been trying to see how we could work around a green economy for the CASA. But imagine we now have to jump a lot of hoops. So we have to look at different countries. Each country has got its own regulators. If you're looking at the capital markets, there's the Security and Exchange Commission for Zambia. There's one for Zimbabwe. There's one for Angola. So to harmonize this, it's been a bit challenging. And I believe this is where these are part of the issues that sustainable finance practices face. Another issue, which I think is very close to what you guys do, is data availability and quality of the data itself. Right? So we find that it's very rare to find well-organized, well-vetted data on climate. Yeah. And also the fact that it's forward-looking and it's backward-looking, it even makes it challenging because you need to model it next 10 years. But unfortunately, no one can model next 10 years with precision. Yeah. So that in itself creates a challenge. So you're trying to avert or you're trying to hedge a risk which you don't really understand. Yeah. And we don't have enough tools to help us. So and that's big for the banks.
Yeah, because they're very conservative.
Yeah, of course. Yeah. Then also the issue of now balancing profitability with sustainability goals. Right? I think you spoke about the short-term goals to the long-term goals. So this is big because the banks want to balance short-term financial results, but they have to look at climate or nature, which is a long-term goal. So how do you balance the two? So the so-called runway risk comes into play. Integrating existing business models. So ESG principles follow a certain route, but you also want to see whether you can integrate them into the traditional banking operations. So the macro-prudential issues and, how do you ensure that now ESG is front and center? So those are the challenges that we're kind of facing. But also, I'm happy to say there's a lot of research that's been done to avert all this. And some of the things I spoke about is the work we're doing with the Green Finance Steering Group. So we've got this group, a think tank, where we're trying to see what are the risks, what are the challenges that we would first to implement, and trying to work on them one by one. Yeah.
Okay. I would think that, just from layman thinking, that even just getting people to understand the green economy and sustainability itself, I think that it's a challenge. Do you think that enough is being done to enable people, like maybe maybe banks will have a sustainability person, but for the whole environment to really understand what sustainability financing is, how is that? Is it an easy thing?
You're getting me fired, you know? Because clearly that's one of my KPIs, right?
Yeah, but what's on the ground, Fungai? Because, when we talk about green economy, I just feel that it's so out of reach.
Yeah.
Like you are saying. Like, I'm sure the taxonomy will help, but as of now, what is the experience?
No, look, obviously, our awareness is key, right? And we are happy that you guys invited us here, because we want to use such platforms to just make people aware of what sustainable finance is, where does it apply, how can it be applied, and what does that even mean to a person on the streets. It's still a new concept, and a lot of people are learning about it. But I'm happy to say that there's been a lot of traction. So I think we believe a number of people are understanding this. What a good example is, I think with the drought, you notice that most banks started giving certain financial products to help you buy inverters and all these things.
Yes.
Already that's a sustainable finance product. It may not be written sustainable finance, but you see at the end of it all, you've got a drought that's been caused by some form of a climate issue. And now we are responding, we're trying to be a bit more, adaptive. So you're looking at how do you adapt, or how do you mitigate the issues that come with climate change. And already that gives an example of a typical product, and this is what banks are doing. And also this also gives a chance to the people on the ground to actually absorb the so-called financial flows.
Okay. I think we'll talk a little bit more about, that nexus and how the banks can use the innovation of like SMEs and the young people to really push their sustainability strategies. But I agree with you, and I think that unfortunately it has taken things like the drought that we had to really bring sustainability and climate risks in the front and center of how people live their lives. Because what the impacts of the drought have done is that they've impacted every area of our life. Everything has changed. People wake up at 0 to iron. It's that bad. And if you don't have a power solution, you have to change your life to fit around when you're going to have power at home and so on. So we've really, like you're saying, I think that has helped to really bring awareness in terms of what sustainability is and what the strategies are to be able to innovate and move away from that. All right. So I think you touched on this, but we would like to hear more now in terms of what the actual WWF initiatives are in terms of supporting the banks in transitioning the banks in Zambia.
So at WWF, we have two projects that promote sustainable finance. So one of them is Dutch Fund for Climate and Development. It tries to push banks as well as businesses to be nature positive. And we then support the banks as well as other businesses in way of giving them technical assistance in transitioning. So we look at how they are developing their products right now and where they want to be, and we look at sustainability. And once we are done with the TA support, we also come up with a funding mechanism, instrument. So for the Dutch Fund for Climate and Development, the sweet spot is a bit high. I think we're looking at a minimum of $5 million. So it's more for the blue chip companies. We provide debt, equity, or meso. The other project is mobilizing more for climate. So not in the gap that we had with what we call the DFCD, or the Dutch Fund for Climate and Development. Mm-hmm. We noticed that the small to medium enterprises were missed.
Yeah.
So we came up with the other product, which is the Mobilize More for Climate. We also provide technical support to the small companies that would want to transition. Mm-hmm. This support varies from $5,000 to $20,000 depending on the size of the organization.
Okay.
Then we link the company to market as well as financing organizations, institutions. Mm-hmm. So we look at we've got banks that we are working with, and we are able to link the SMEs after they go through our process. Then we link them to funding. We believe these two are really helping, and I think we've got a fairly good pipeline of projects that we're working with.
Okay.
And we would want to increase, of course. Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. But that's the way we're looking at it. So for banks, also, what we try to do is, with the tier that we provide, we look at how do we enhance risk management, right? So, like I said earlier, there's been a traditional way of doing banking.
Yeah.
Now with climate change and nature losses, how do we change that to ensure that we're looking at the risks thereof? Yeah. Because remember, we need to price all the risks.
Yeah.
So we that's what we're trying to do. And we also believe that by so doing, the banks may actually have an improved financial performance. Mm-hmm. Worldwide, we've seen that most funds that adopt the ESG have actually performed better than the other funds.
Okay.
Whether that's because of the ESG or not, that's a story to be discussed. But I think just looking at the analysis, that has really helped. Yeah. But further, we also believe that because of this, there is also increased market demand. Remember, human beings, we believe in consumer behavior is big, right? And the more people are changing toward and being receptive to ESG, it means that even the kind of products that they'll get should align. So banks and everyone else should also have products that align. We're helping. We also try to help banks coming up with products, so to become a bit more innovative to ensure that they can have ESG-led or aligned products, as it were.
Okay. Yeah. Okay. So for the Mobilize for More, which is the one that is focused on the SMEs.
Yeah.
How do SMEs participate in this?
Yeah. So it's a number of ways. One, we have calls.
Okay.
Yeah, especially for the youth, we've got a program called Pachipanda.
Okay.
Which we've been working on for the last 3 years with MTN Foundation.
Okay.
We use that to. There's an expression of interest that comes out. Then the youths are encouraged to apply. So that's one way, and I think. Yeah, if I'm given more time, I can speak more about it.
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah, but also there's people that just come to our websites. So because we've listed these programs, so they just come to our WWF Zam website, and also others through interactions like this. So we've got different platforms. There's a thought leadership process that we undertake to ensure that people can just get to know more about what we're doing. Platforms such as this, we are on media. Yeah, so we've been trying to actually market these projects.
Okay.
Yeah.
All right. So you are supporting the banks, but I believe that whenever you're doing something, you need other stakeholders, to push an agenda forward. So who are the other stakeholders that are required to support banks as they transition to sustainable finance? And how can they contribute to make sure that banks actually achieve this transition?
Yeah, look, there are a lot of stakeholders, I must say. First of all, other NGOs. So I think, and for instance, for the DFCD, we work, which is the Dutch Fund for Climate and Development, we work with the SNV, which is another huge NGO. So together with SMV, we are out there looking for projects that can be funded. The government, of course, is front and center. Using the Ministry of Green Economy, we work with the green economy just to help us identify projects, and also sometimes there can be information that will be lacking, and the ministry is full of information. So we use them to ensure that we can just understand the intricacies of what we're dealing with. Like I said earlier, we're working with the Securities and Exchange Commission.
Okay.
Yeah. So basically, if you are going to issue a green bond, you have to obviously go through their process, the capital markets. So we work with them very much. Also in Zambia, one of the key areas of where you have a lot of savings is the pension funds. So we work with the pension insurance agency, authority rather, to ensure them. How do we ensure that they also have green or sustainability in their policies? Because then they are the ones that have the money to invest into the capital markets. So if we're able to talk to them, and obviously through our interactions, we hope we're able to influence what kind of products can come on board. Bank of Zambia, I already spoke about it. That's almost a given, because they regulate banks.
They regulate them.
But also, I think they've been very progressive. Like I said, sometimes you might find that regulation was ahead of market. They did the green loans. For SEC, they have got what we call the green bonds regulations, which were equally issued some time back. So these are people, organizations we're working with. So government, NGOs, quasi, also the IDC, because they've got a big portfolio of companies. So obviously it's important to see how do we help them identify the right investment for such companies.
Yeah, and the private sector, obviously, because those are the target.
It goes without saying. It goes without saying, because they are the target, definitely. They are the companies that we're trying to help. Also beyond that, the communities, right? Remember, sustainable financing does not mean that loans only. So it starts from grants, to loans, to equity. So it's the whole 9 yards which we're looking at. And so everyone is involved, and especially the community, because they are not they are also the consumers. So it's important to understand what we're doing.
Okay, so I know you mentioned the CEC bond that came out. Can you give us other examples, so that if we have companies that are listening and are thinking, how can I participate in this? How can I access this green finance, and what should I be thinking about as a company, as a private sector company? I think especially for the Dutch fund, which is, you are talking about a minimum of 5 million. What should they be thinking about to be able to start transitioning to have sustainability strategies that allow them to access this financing?
So look, unfortunately for Zambia, right, CEC is the only company that has issued a green bond. It's a good thing because they've started.
They're the trailblazer.
Yes, they've opened the doors. We hope to see a little more issuances going forward. But also beyond looking at raising financing directly from the capital markets, right? It's possible, like for us, we're able to provide similar financing through the Dutch Fund for Climate and Development. So in essence, it's more or less, it's a loan or an equity investment, as it were, but not through the market. And what do they look? The company just needs to, especially for the DFCD, the company needs to be obviously profitable. A fairly strong balance sheet that would absorb that kind of money, because this is not free money.
No. They'll have to pay that.
Exactly. But
the terms are really good.
Exactly.
And
it's blended finance.
Yes. And they have support. They have TA.
We try to ensure that the pricing is fairly good. Obviously, ours is not to crowd out the banks, but we want to work as a complementary to the banks. So the issue, obviously, they need to have a fairly good balance sheet. We look at the top line, but also, and most importantly, they need to show that they're trying to transition, or they actually work in such a way that promotes climate change, adaptation, or mitigation. So those are the key issues we look at. Further, we need to ensure that they support communities around them.
Yeah.
So and that's how come obviously we look at the total risk, but we don't just limit it to the organization itself, but we need to see how are the communities around, what we call outside the fence, how they have been impacted. Is it an increase of jobs? Are they providing them as part of the value chain or supply chain? So all those things come into play for us as we price, and also we ensure that the pricing is very favorable.
Okay.
Yeah.
Great. All right. Well, you are listening to the Wednesday edition of the Thought Leadership. I'm learning a lot here. And I think, this is good because we need people to start thinking about how do they transition. And I think one of the key things that people come back and say, we have no finance, so we can't do things. But what you're saying, Fungai, here is that there is available financing. Yeah. And it's available at good terms, but you have to, of course, have a strong balance sheet and be able to demonstrate how are you going to transition and how are you bringing the community along in your transition. And I guess that's where you change the fundamentals that you were talking about, because ultimately we have to make sure that, we are conserving the environment, but then we're also changing the livelihoods of the people that are in those areas. Great. So if you just tuned in, you're listening to the PRS Thought Leadership Program. We're going to take a short break, and then we'll come and conclude after we come back. Great. You are listening to the Wednesday edition of the PRS Thought Leadership Program. And today our guest is Fungai Musana from WWF. The topic of discussion is sustainable finance, a smart risk strategy for banks. And we've been discussing, firstly, what sustainable finance is, and then we went into what the benefits are for the banks and what is currently happening in terms of sustainable financing in the sector. We also talked about some of the ways that WWF is supporting banks and other companies to transition to have sustainable strategies. So now we are going to look forward. Yeah. So Fungai, how can now Zambian banks, so we've talked about the current situation, we've talked about some of the support that you are giving these banks. So how can they strategically position themselves to now leverage this sustainable finance for long-term resilience?
Yeah, and that's a very important question because we're looking ahead, forward-looking, very important.
Yeah.
So number one, I think we've discussed it. It's developing green financial products. Now, in this case, we also discussed the green bonds.
Yeah.
I think the banks are better placed to actually issue such bonds for them to attract green financing, and then on lend to retail. Yeah. So there is that opportunity. So I firmly believe that the banks should be front and center to issue green and sustainable linked loans that attract investments in environmentally friendly projects. So that's number one. Number two, I'll be looking at bidding partnerships. So they can work with WWF, government, and other NGOs to access technical assistance and funding, like the DFCD, like I said.
Yeah.
So already there's a platform for them, and I believe that's something they can look at and should help them also look at their strategies. Yeah. Because I think, like we say, banks are looking at risk and return. So we should be able to assist, especially on the ESG aspect. Then, and I think I'm repeating myself, but it's important because, again, like I said, it's really the baseline for the banks, enhancing risk management. Yeah. So integrating ESG factors into risk assessment frameworks, and we believe this will help them better manage environmental and social risks. So that's an area of interest and worth looking at.
Yeah.
Then we spoke about data earlier. Yeah. So I think it's about investing in the right technology, right? Having the right digital platforms to improve transparency and efficiency in sustainable finance operations. Yeah. And that should help them model. We believe there's always an intelligent person that can model these things. So we could help with that. And lastly, they could also provide some capacity building. So we're looking at training staff.
Yeah.
So beyond the people that look at the loans and everything else, but the whole bank can actually look at this, and they train their staff in ESG principles as well as sustainable finance practices to ensure that they are well equipped to manage these issues or these initiatives as they come.
Yeah.
So I believe that that should help.
Yeah. And now I was just thinking, because I know we've focused about banks, but can microfinance also participate? Like, is this something that microfinance?
Yeah, of course. Look, at the end of it all, we are looking at all financial institutions. So from the big banks, small banks, those that are providing microfinancing, micro loans. So it's everyone at the end of it all.
Okay.
And what you see, and I think just to your point, microfinance maybe are more able to reach the wider communities than the bigger banks.
Yeah.
So it's important that we also put them in the basket to ensure that they can access the sustainable finance we're talking about, but also on lend to our colleagues that deserve this.
Exactly. And I was just thinking about in terms of microfinance, because like you're saying, they are the ones that are engaging mostly with the SMEs, especially.
Yeah.
Banks, due to their they're very conservative and they're very risk averse, so they won't lend to a lot of the type of SMEs that we have. And I think that for microfinance also, like you were saying, the important things are the technical assistance as well as the capacity building, because I don't think that, this is something that is a priority, but this is something they need to start prioritizing, right?
Yeah, definitely. And maybe we, on our side, we need to do a bit more to reach out to the MFIs. Because, like you say, they actually, I think look, I haven't looked at how their portfolio looks like, but I want to believe that they've got more SMEs than most of the banks.
Yes, definitely, by far.
So I think that's a good point.
Yeah. Okay. And then I want to just talk about, because we were talking about this on the break, about how, as an SME, sometimes you would think that, especially with the current global aid environment where, USAID has been shut down, a lot of countries are looking increasing their defense spending. And you can be there sitting as an SME with a brilliant idea on a sustainable idea that can help with, either mitigating or enhancing adaptation, or even addressing the impacts of climate change. And you're thinking maybe there's no financing. What would you say to such an entrepreneur?
Well, look, all hope is not lost. Right? There's still hope. And I believe beyond us, there are a lot of other institutions that are still out there trying to ensure that SMEs and also youth, right, have access to the right financing. And I think it's a matter of just how do we then create a platform where we can meet, right? And maybe using this, I'm hoping that we are talking to certain SMEs that have these products, and they can just walk in. They can have WWF. They talk to our specialists. They will help them with a tailor-made product that we believe will suit the company. And so there's still room for us to absorb a little more SMEs.
Great.
The Mobilizing More for Climate, unfortunately, comes to an end at the end of the year. We believe we will have a sequel.
Okay.
And because there's been a lot of attraction on what we're doing, and we believe we should be able to have new funding for another cycle. So I'm happy to talk to as many SMEs as possible, give them advice, see how we can improve their productivity, efficiency, and also at the end of it all improve their financial position.
Great. I think the Thought Leadership Program, we will, I'm very excited about this because we had an energy discussion just about 3 weeks ago where we were talking about how do we change the energy crisis into a catalyst for innovation. And the Thought Leadership Program is all about bringing innovators together to solution for the challenges that we're seeing. And I can already see that, obviously finance, every time I talk to entrepreneurs, finance is always the biggest challenge. And so definitely, I think if you're listening to us and you're interested, please interact with the PRS as well as the WF websites to see how you can participate. But I already see that we will probably bring together something where we can bring entrepreneurs who are working in this space to come and see how they can, participate in some of these initiatives that you're doing. But I think beyond that, and as we conclude the show, this is really, really important information. And I think I would like you to just highlight again how people can learn more about these initiatives and be able to participate in all the other initiatives that WWF is doing.
Yeah, so number one, for the youth, there is a Patch Panda Innovation Challenge coming up again. Like I said, we're working with MTN Foundation. The winners walk away with a minimum of $5,000 asset capital with no attachments. Obviously, we just want you to use the money for the intended purpose.
Yes.
We have, actually, I think on the 22nd of April, the winners of last year will be competing on the Africa platform.
Wow.
So we've got other 5 countries. They will be meeting South Africa to compete. So it gives them another opportunity to raise capital, but also exposure to funders. So we believe this is a platform that we've created for the youths and SMEs, as it were, and we would want to ensure that people can participate. Secondly, we obviously, like you said, and I keep saying, please, our website, come to our website. You're able to see Mobilize More for Climate. Thirdly, I think WWF is an open door policy. So walk in any time to our offices in Longacres. You have someone to talk to you, guide you, and also just provide you the information that's required. Then, look, just to encourage people to just remain innovative. I think and that's what's important for us. We can't just let this opportunity pass. Someone has put in money to help us innovate, so the money shouldn't go back.
No, it shouldn't. And I think that we are capable. I always keep saying, we are the ones who are living these challenges. We are experiencing these challenges. So we are the best people to innovate in terms of solutions. And I completely agree with you that there's no way that we can have money that has been, allocated for a certain activity, and then we don't do that activity. Why not? It
would be very unfortunate if the money went back. And it's there.
Great. Patch Panda, how many winners are you expecting to award for the innovation?
So we normally have the top 10.
Okay.
So the top 10 goes through a process where we obviously help them enhance their businesses. But the top 3 are the ones that get financial benefit.
Great. And just to say that even if you're not in the top 3, just going through this process, the amount of capacity building you will get, the exposure, and you'll be ready for the next round of competition.
And remember, we link you to finance and marketing.
Exactly. Wow.
So,
Okay. Well, this has been a fascinating conversation, and I've learned a lot. And thank you so much, Fungai, for coming through and for sharing these initiatives. And like I said, we'll definitely reach out to see how we can do something else that will bring the entrepreneurs that are innovating in this space to come and listen and see how they can participate. Indeed, as we close the show, we just want to thank the listeners for tuning in. The Thought Leadership Program comes on every Wednesday at 9 a.m. And like I said, the program is dedicated to innovation because we want to bring the people that are innovating in their fields. Today we had Fungai, who is an expert in sustainable finance, and we've learned so much and also have learned about the opportunities that are there for SMEs and entrepreneurs to be able to take advantage of these opportunities to ultimately solve the day-to-day challenges that Zambians are facing. As we've discussed, as Zambians, we are the solution to the problems that we're facing. And so this is just a call to everybody who's listening. If you are not yet following our social media pages, we are on X, former Twitter, we are on Facebook, we are also on LinkedIn at PRS 365. And by following our social media pages, you'll be able to stay in touch with what is happening at PRS and be able to participate in opportunities like the ones that we're just discussing here, to be able to move your business forward. And as we close the show, we would like to thank everybody that was listening, and we'll see you again next week on Wednesday. Thank you.
Do you desire for fresh perspectives? Are you ready to be a leader who shapes the future, not just reacts to it? Then buckle up, because the Thought Leadership Program is here. This dynamic program is the ultimate convergence point for industry experts, visionaries, and trailblazers. Each week, we bring you the thought leaders who are pushing boundaries and redefining what's possible. You will hear cut-edging insights, groundbreaking ideas, and practical strategies that will propel you forward. The Thought Leadership Program is where the future takes shape. Let the power of ideas propel you forward. Welcome to a space where thoughts lead, leaders inspire. The Thought Leadership Program, TLP, aims to amplify voices of thought leaders to drive positive change across business, government, and development sectors. Don't miss out on this incredible opportunity to learn from the best and become a leader who makes a difference. Tune in to the Thought Leadership Program on Money FM 93.7 every Wednesday at 9 hours. Visit our website at prs.org.zm for more information and subscribe to our podcast. Be the leader, be the future, be part of the program. This is PRS and Money FM.